Hello everyone, in this part I will talk about the fundamentals of facilities planning. More specifically, I will focus on three main ideas: the improvement of the facility planning cycle, the variety of locations that can be planned, and the hierarchy and structure of facility planning. This topic is important because facility planning is not only about choosing a building or arranging departments inside it. It is a broader decision-making process. It connects strategic decisions such as where a facility should be located with design decisions such as how the inside of the facility should function. So the main idea of this presentation is that facility planning should be seen as a structured and logical system rather than a one-time simple decision. Here, the main focus is on three parts of facility planning. The first one is the improvement of the facilities planning cycle. This means planning is not something fixed forever. It should be reviewed and improved over time. The second part is planning the variety of locations. Different types of organizations need different types of facilities. A hospital, an office, a factory, and an emergency room all have different priorities. The third part is hierarchy and structure. This is very important because in facilities planning, decisions should follow an organized order. First, we decide the broader strategic decisions. Then we move step by step toward more detailed design decisions. So this slide gives us the roadmap of the whole topic. It tells us that facility planning includes both high-level decisions and detailed operational design. This page highlights an important sentence: hierarchy ensures decisions follow a logical order from strategy to design. This means we should not jump directly into detailed layout decisions before solving bigger questions. For example, it would not make sense to decide where machines or departments should be placed before deciding whether the location itself is suitable. In the same way, in a hospital, we should not design patient rooms first if we have not yet decided the general location, service scope, and facility systems. In real life, this matters a lot. Imagine a company designing a warehouse. If it first spends time on shelf placement and internal routing, but later realizes that the building is too far from customers or too difficult for trucks to access, then much of the design efforts becomes wasteful. So hierarchy protects the planning process from confusion. It helps organizations move from broad strategic thinking to detailed design in the correct order. This page visually shows the structure of facility planning across different systems, such as healthcare providers, pharmaceutical suppliers, and hospitals. Even though these systems are different, the planning logic is similar. In each case, the process begins with facilities planning. Then it branches into two major parts: facilities location and facilities design. After that, facilities design is broken down further into facility systems design, layout design, and handling system design. This tells us something important. No matter what kind of organization we are dealing with, facilities planning usually follows the same logic. First, where will the facility be? Then, how will it be designed? And finally, how will the internal systems, layout, and handling processes support the objectives? A real-life example would be a pharmaceutical supplier. First, the company chooses a location that is suitable for distribution and supply chain access. After that, it designs internal systems like storage conditions, movement of materials, and room arrangement. You can see concrete examples on this page, and it makes the topic easier to understand. On the left side, we see how the same planning logic is adapted for manufacturing facilities, office facilities, hospital facilities, and emergency rooms. On the right side, we see a hospital floor plan, which is a good example of how design decisions appear in real life. For manufacturing facilities, the focus may be plant location, plant design, plant layout, and material handling. In office facilities, information handling becomes much more important than material handling. In hospitals, the design becomes even more complex because it includes patient handling, physician handling, public handling, information handling, and material handling. Emergency rooms also have their own special structure because speed and accessibility become critical. This is a very realistic point. Different facilities are not planned in exactly the same way because their goals are different. For example, in a supermarket, customer circulation and product visibility are very important. In a hospital, patient safety and quick access to treatment areas are much more important. So the planning structure is similar, but the content changed according to the function of the facility. Well, the question is, how do we improve? This question is central to facility planning because once a facility is built or designed, the job is not over. Real systems change over time, demand changes, technology changes, customer expectations change, and even regulations may change. Because of that, facilities also need to improve continuously. In real life, a factory may need to reorganize its departments because production volume increases. A hospital may need to resign parts of its floor because emergency demand becomes higher. An office may need new space arrangements because hybrid working changes how people use the building. So improvement is not just about fixing mistakes, sometimes it is about adapting to new conditions. That is why a facility planning should be seen as a continuous improvement cycle, not as a one-time static decision. The cycle begins with specifying or updating the primary and related activities needed to accomplish the objectives. After that, space requirements for all activities are determined. Then there is a feasibility question. Can the new operation or facility be incorporated into the existing site, or is that not feasible? If it is not feasible, then the facility location may need to be reconsidered. If it is feasible, the next steps are to develop alternative plans, evaluate them, select the best facilities plan, and implement it. After implementation, the cycle continues with maintaining and continuously improving the system. This is very realistic. For example, suppose a hospital wants to add a new imaging service. First, it must define what activities are needed. Then it must check space requirements. If the current hospital building cannot support the new unit, the hospital may need to expand or redesign another section. If it can fit, then several layout alternatives are created and compared. So the key idea is that facility planning is cyclical. It is not. In the next part, we will be focusing on the facility planning process and the objective of facility planning. So what we learned here is the foundation. We saw that facility planning follows a hierarchy and that it can be applied to different types of facilities, and that it must include continuous improvement. These ideas are important because they prepare us for the next stage, where the actual planning process and the objectives will be discussed in more detail. To conclude, facility planning should be understood as a structured system that connects strategy, design, and improvement. It helps organizations make logical decisions in the right order, adapt to different types of facilities, and respond better to real-life changes over time.